Good evening, Bucknutters. Welcome to What We Learned Live following Ohio State's 52-6 win over Akron in the 2024 season opener. I am Dave Biddle. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be joined in a little bit by Heater, a.k.a. Heath Schneider. Then we'll be joined by the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Then we'll be joined by Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen from Ohio Stadium. Welcome in. Well, a slow start for the Buckeyes, and by a little, I mean a lot. But I thought they, I wrote in my notes, I was like, I wanted to see them look like a national championship contender, all right, a dominant force, not just a contender. I wanted them to look like a dominant force, and they did not look like that in the first half. They looked like it in the second half. So it's however you want to make of it. Overall, I'm encouraged about this team. I thought Will Howard played really well. Jeremiah Smith had that one drop. Then he goes on to have a huge game. So, a few of the things I was looking at, Will Howard, I thought he looks like the quarterback that we want him to look like. So I'm curious to get some questions from you guys, some comments. So right off the top, from YouTube, Will Howard not looking bad. That's correct. Lynn's Breezy, glad you can make the live show. Glad I did not accidentally ban you. She says, I am happy to admit I underestimated Will Howard. I still want to see how he handles Happy Valley in Oregon, though. I'm with you on that. Like this, it's good that he looked good against Akron in the Horseshoe. Let's see how he looks at Penn State and Oregon. No doubt about it. Rick makes a good point. Howard overall played well, but that pass, it wasn't a pass. That lateral to Henderson, which should have been a fumble. Great job by Trey to jump on that. Can't do stuff like that. That was the one thing that Will Howard did that I didn't like. I'm glad you pointed that out. I don't need to sit here and say he played great when he did something like that. But he played overall. I thought Will Howard played well. He's what I think Ohio State needs at the quarterback position. Is he going to be elite? No, but I think he is going to play well enough to get the Buckeyes where they want to go. Kevin on YouTube, Will Howard looked real good. He did, except for that one play, right? He really did. He really did. Yeah, I mean, we knew he wasn't going to go out there and be like Joe Montana, right? I mean, overall, I'm encouraged, very encouraged by how Will Howard looks. If you have some questions, shoot them my way. Carlos on the X machine. Carlos Rodriguez, elephant in the room, concerned about the offensive line. A little bit. I mean, Donovan Jackson didn't start. Austin Seiverveld got his first career start as a Buckeye. That was interesting. As expected, people are probably, well, why didn't Carson Hinsman start? Well, Carson obviously had been repping it at center a lot and then was repping at right guard. He was battling for the right guard spot. I don't think he repped it all at left guard. Yeah, it's easy to say, oh, well, if he's played center and right guard, he easily could play left guard. He could. But Austin has played nothing but left guard throughout the spring and then was playing left guard in camp and a little bit of tackle. So, two Lakota guys, rival Lakota guys getting their first career starts today. Tegra Shabola, Lakota West at right guard, and then you had Austin Seiverveld, Lakota East at left guard. So there you go. I don't know. Am I concerned about the offensive line? Yeah, I'm not like too jazzed about it. They were trying to talk up Akron's defensive line. Let's hope that's a real thing and that's not like spin doctoring. Anyway, I mean, we're talking about the announcers on TV. It's not like it's Ohio State's coaches, but they were saying Akron's got a really good defensive line. It's like, okay. They're picked as one of the worst teams in the MAC. But overall, I'll take it, man. It'd be one of those things if they started – if the second half score was the first half score and, and vice versa, you'd be like, okay, whatever, right? It's how we expected it. 52-6 sounds about right. But it's like, oh, wow, it was 3-0 and then 7-3. In the second quarter. So it did. 17-3 at halftime. We're kind of all sitting there kind of sideways, like, what, are you serious? But I think overall this team looks good. I just want to keep getting some Timothy on Facebook's giving the offensive line a vote of approval. Not really. He says offensive line still sucks. Yeah. Reno on YouTube. Jack Sawyer broke their quarterback. Yes, he did. Multiple times, might I say. Jeez. Kurt on YouTube. Look, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That was cool doing that. Had a little airtime on CBS's pregame show. That was really cool. David on YouTube. Travion Henderson made some great blocks. I need to go back and watch the game. That's awesome because that's not something we know Trey to do. Who's the best running back to come through here in a long time? Ezekiel Elliott. Even if you took away his pass protection and just his blocking overall, he'd be one of the best running backs to come through here in a long time. You add that in, Zeke was just unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, I'm encouraged about Will Howard. You know, I like overall how this defense is playing. Nice to get a couple of D touchdowns. Yeah, the offensive line needs to come around. Jeremiah Smith had that drop early, then played great. I thought the replay official completely blew it on that Emeka Ibuka. He clearly had his elbow down. He didn't juggle the ball. That was just weird. We're completely used to college football replay officials blowing calls, though. So, all right, looks like we have my friend Heath Schneider, a.k.a. my man in Amsterdam. Heater, how you doing, my man?
Dave Biddle, my man in Inglewood. That's the reply answer, remember, from the movie. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, we're prisoners of the moment sometimes, so it's halftime. It's like, I don't know. But, like, I thought overall, I'm encouraged. Where are you at?
I'm encouraged. That's a fair statement, right? There was some slop. There wasn't a lot of early on spectacular moments. It was dull, let's say. Some slop in there, certainly on the first series for both offense and defense, drop balls, penalties, etc. But they figured out a way, and as we went through the game, you saw moments where they almost broke a big one, and that was the athletes taking over, right? So it wasn't a dominant performance that you would have thought, but somehow we wound up at 52-6, which is what we thought.
Right. I mean, it is pretty crazy. Like, you look at the final score, it's like kind of the whole day, you're like, they're underachieving. And you look at the final score, 52-6. It's like first world problems and then some.
Right.
Will Howard, there's so many things I want to get your take on, but Will Howard, like, I listen, I like what I'm seeing out of Will Howard. Like, I'm not saying he's like going to win the Heisman. I'm also not saying he's not. I'm just saying, like, I didn't need him to be elite, but I needed him to look like he looked today. I really like what I see out of Will Howard. What do you see?
So couple things. Let's do a couple things that are really good. One, he comes with competitive fire. You could see it, right? And you saw that with the exception of a couple of plays from McCord last year, the end of the Notre Dame game, stuff like that. He really didn't bring that competitive fire. But you saw that a lot with Will Howard today. I saw a nice release. He is not a ball placement specialist like C.J. Stroud, but he throws a catchable ball. He puts it in a good spot for them to catch it. What I didn't like with Will Howard was consistency. I'm looking at the quarterback progression. I don't know if you've looked at it, Dave. Started 0 for 4, then went 6 for 7, then went 0 for 5, and then finished 11 of 12. Like,
0 for 4, that included 2 drops, though.
Fair. Drops are a part of it, right? And the very first one he threw to JJ was a drop. And by the way, if he caught that, I think he's still running. Right. And we'd be talking about that as Buckeye legend and lore, the way we would have with Travion's early touches, right? So, but I would like to see consistency out of that. I loved watching him run the ball and lower his shoulder. That's something that's been missing. Kind of channeled his inner JT. I loved seeing that.
That was awesome. You know what else I love? I mean, it was like, so I at one point I was yelling, like, don't catch the ball at the 5, Brandon Ennis. Yes, catch the ball at the 5 and go, 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 go. I like that we have a punt returner.
Can we have him return all punts for the rest of the year? Yes, absolutely.
He can catch it inside the 5 if he wants.
He appears to be fearless. He makes a good move at the beginning, makes his decision, and goes. He's got enough wiggle that he can go, and he's certainly got the speed to get there. I will tell you, after seeing him today, he will house one before the end of the year.
I thought he was going to today. You know,
I
Ryan,
did
they
too.
guaranteed they're going to have a punt return, or he didn't say kick return for a touchdown, kick or punt return for a touchdown this year.
Yeah.
We're gonna get that done. We're gonna get that done. I thought this myself. JM on YouTube. Ennis reminds me of Jalen Marshall. Who was the last one to return a kick or a punt for the Buckeyes? JM knows the answer. Jalen Marshall was. He didn't spell Jalen right, but we're not grammar nerds or anything around here. I mean, I might be, but no, you're right, JM. He does remind me of Jalen Marshall. I even put that in my notes. Like, love it. Absolutely love it. Number 11, Brandon Ennis, is going to return a punt this year for a touchdown.
Yeah. I don't even think that's even remotely close to a hot take. That's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Absolutely believe it. Absolutely believe it.
So offensive line concerns?
I think the offensive line was a tale of two cities right there, right? I thought that what I saw, and you tell me what you think, but I thought pass protection was vastly better than run blocking, right? In the run game, it didn't seem like they were moving people off the blocks, and they weren't imposing their will on a group of inferior athletes, right? Not a knock on Akron, but there's a reason you didn't go to Ohio State and you went to Akron. It's just what it is. But I thought their pass blocking was a lot better comparatively. I don't think it's midseason form, and it's certainly not the 2014 Buckeyes that didn't get a single holding penalty from the end of December until the end of the year. But I think that when I look at it, I have more concern in run blocking world than I do in pass blocking world. What did you see?
Well, the peeps are agreeing with you. Am I going to disagree with you guys? No, that's the same thing I saw. The run blocking did leave a lot to be desired. I did think Akron was okay, we're going to crash the box, but still it's Akron. Okay.
Yeah.
If Akron says that we're going to crash the box, if you're Ohio State, you could be okay, we're still going to run it down your throat. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, what the masses are saying. The run blocking needs to be much better. Not a little better, it needs to be much better. I do overall like what I saw out of the pass pro.
Yeah, agree. It looked like Will Howard had time. Let's just take the stuff with Devin and set that aside, right? He was there for 6 passes or whatever. As I sit there and think about Will Howard, it looked to me like he had time. When he had to scramble, he looks like a guy who's mobile, can scramble, and can make plays both on rhythm and off rhythm, right? And that's the best kind of setup you can have. A lot of quarterbacks are pure. Let me give you an NFL example. Deshaun Watson plays much better off rhythm all the time. He is an off rhythm guy. Tom Brady is an on rhythm. He's a rhythm guy when he played, not now. And those two don't mix very well, right? They could accomplish something in either one, but it looked to me like Will Howard could do either kind of equally today, and I was happy with that. I like what you said. Hey, I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman. I'm not saying he's not going to win the Heisman. Let's see how the season bakes as it goes through. But when I think about that pass pro and how Will Howard sat back there, he looked calm under pressure. He didn't look panicked, and he didn't look like he was somebody that was just going to give up on a play, like we saw a lot last year, right? I mean, that happened a lot last year where McCord would see that pressure coming and cave in one way or another, either succumb to it with a sack or throw an errant ball that didn't have a chance of being completed except to the other team.
I love his pocket presence here. It's nothing crazy. It's just he has very subtle, and by subtle I mean perfect, foot movements in the pocket. His footwork in the pocket is very nice, very smooth. He'll avoid and he's a big boy too. So sometimes it doesn't need to be smooth. If somebody's getting in his face, he has the ability to stiff arm them and just get out of dodge.
You saw that
very impressed with our quarterback's pocket presence.
Yeah, and you saw that on the play in the first half where two guys had a shot at him. The one guy had him by the shirt tail, and he just stepped out of it like it didn't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
Big, strong, mobile quarterbacks are a wonderful thing to have when you need them.
Absolutely. Let's talk about James Peoples a little bit. I like all of our running backs. I thought Travion looked good. I thought Quinshon looked good. A lot of people are talking about Jay Peeps. Let's talk about Jay Peeps. I mean, obviously having 4 scholarship running backs, not ideal. Having Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins as your top 2, beyond ideal. Having James Peoples even as a true freshman as your number 3, beyond ideal. I loved what I saw to Jay Peeps.
So, yeah, I did too, right? And so a couple of things on that. They talked a lot throughout the game, and in the second half, they brought on Arch and talked about Archie and his 2 Heismans, his statue out in the eye, and that was great. But where I'm going with this is, what is it that Archie always says about running back in the Big Ten? You got to have a pair and a spare, right? And we have a pair. And seeing Peoples out there doing what he did today made me have a little bit of confidence. You worry about the maturity because of the age, right? But boy, I liked what I saw. And I'm not saying let's start him, but it's great to know that while Dallin took his talents out to Colorado, we have a guy that's sitting here now that looks like he's a player.
Were you disappointed a little bit with the lack of creativity from Chip Kelly?
Yes, but so that's what I was saying. It was kind of boring, especially in the first half. But At the same time, I'm like, okay, it's Akron, so we don't want to put a lot on film. Let's just let the superiority of our athletes carry the day and don't put too much out there. Because right now, he's in a perfect situation, right? Oregon's on the horizon, October 12th, and I think it's the 12th. Yes. And he's got a relatively easy schedule leading up to that, and he can, for the most part, rely on superiority of his athletes to carry the day and doesn't have to put a lot on film for him. If that's his plan, I'm all for it. If it was just he's a boring offensive play caller all of a sudden, which would be weird, then I would take some umbrage to it, because I think he's a better play caller than that.
Great stuff from Heath Schneider, my man in Amsterdam. Is your immediately after the game story already up?
It immediately after the game, Dave.
I was going to say, if it wasn't, it wouldn't be immediately after the game. It's like this podcast.
I never wait to see a reaction from other people. I don't go back and rewatch it. I put it up right away, and I take my licks if people think I'm an idiot, or or as I might say, a hero or a zero in the immediately after the game analysis.
You're my hero. All right,
brother.
All right, my peeps. Like after the show, get on and read Heater's post-game column on Bucknuts. I guess you can do it during the show. You guys can probably multitask. You can do it during the show. Thank you, Heater. Appreciate it, my man.
My man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, now we're going to bring in the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Dean, good to see you this evening, my friend.
Hello, Mr. Biddle. Great to have football back, isn't it?
It's fantastic to have football back. Before we get into recruiting, your thoughts overall on this game, 52-6. I know it started slow, but just overall, how do you feel about this Ohio State team? Do they look like the national championship team we thought that they would look like?
Funny you should ask, Dave. I was expecting to start this way, actually, knowing you and how we've done in the past. Like you said, it was a little slow start, but saw a lot of things I liked. I know everybody's talking about Jeremiah Smith, of course, but Will Howard, I sure liked what I saw him. I really like the fact that Will Howard can run the football when needed. And, I've mentioned this before. The guy's 6'5", 240, whatever, but he's fast. I mean, he can run away from people. And I always love the quarterback adding the extra dimension to the offense of being able to run the ball on called plays a couple times and when he has to from the pocket. So love that. Love Jeremiah Smith. Defense looked really good. Now, my only, I guess, I don't know if it's criticism, but a little bit of a concern still is being able to run the ball, offensive line, short yardage situations, that type of thing. I still have some concern about that a little bit. And hopefully, as we go on, they were missing Donovan Jackson, so that makes a difference. But still, I guess that's, if you want to nitpick or have to say something that you're a little concerned with, that'd be my thought.
I agree 100%. I needed to see better, and I kept saying, they're going to be much improved short yardage running the ball, and they weren't tonight against Akron. Now, The announcers are saying this. I read Akron allegedly has a good front seven. Okay, but listen, if you're Ohio State and your goal, everybody's goal is to win the national championship, but this is almost as close to national championship or bust as you can get. I don't care if Akron has a good front seven. You got to run the ball better than that. Overall, I was encouraged though. Overall, Brandon, when you look at special teams, defense, offense, everything, slow start, good finish. Brandon Ennis returning punts. I'm like, no, don't. Yes. So overall, I'm encouraged. All right, let's get to it.
If we can just get them to stop committing penalties when Brandon Ennis is returning punts, because my goodness, I agree totally, Dave. He looked very comfortable in that role. It's the best I felt about who Ohio State has back there returning punts in quite a while.
It's perfect too, because he's just on the outside looking in as far as being a starting receiver. We all know if he was a starting receiver, he'd get the job done and then some. And he's still going to play a lot of snaps, but now he's that number 4 receiver, but he's the starting punt returner, so he's got a huge role, and love that. Okay, I'm going to ask you my question, but we do have one already coming in from Rick. He's like, Tom Loy is giving crystal balls for Naheem Offord to Auburn. What do you make of that, Bill?
Well, they, on our Tuesday, Thursday podcast, Mark Porter and Dan Rubin and I have talked about this. It's not going to be easy keeping him in the class. Auburn is working hard. They're recruiting well. And to be honest, their NIL program is working very well right now. So it will not be easy to keep him in the class. I'm not ready to say he's leaving. I'm not at all ready to say that. But there is a concern there. There's a concern with about 3 or 4 guys, and Naheem Offord and Zaire Mathis would be my 2 players that I would be most worried about right now staying in Ohio State's class. And again, I'm not predicting right now that either one of them's leaving. I'm just saying that those are my 2 biggest concerns. It's not out of the question, I'll say that.
Obviously, this was not a big recruiting day for Ohio State. As you told me, Iowa, Nebraska, obviously Michigan. Those are the big recruiting weekends during the season. And now it's completely different than how it used to be, with official visits happening during the summer, which I think is spring, really, which I think is great. But as you know, as everybody knows, at every home game, there's a bunch of recruits. Who was there today? You don't need to name everybody unless you want to. What do we need to know about recruiting as far as the game today?
Well, there were some big time talent. If you're Chris Henry Jr., who is arguably the top player in the country for 2026, and he's committed to Ohio State. He's a wide receiver, and you're sitting there watching Jeremiah Smith. Mm-hmm. You're thinking, oh my goodness, can't wait to get to Ohio State, I think.
Yep.
And he was in the house. So that is, anytime you get Chris Henry Jr. in the house, that is a very good thing. Anybody that doesn't know, which probably not many out there don't know this, but Chris is an Ohioan, but he's now going to Santa Ana Mater Dei High School in California. And to get him back for this game, fantastic. And then you had a couple of his teammates. You had Caden Dixon Wyatt. He is a wide receiver, 2026 at Mater Dei High School, who Ohio State has offered a scholarship. And you had Sean Scott, a linebacker edge from the same school. Getting those guys to this game, certainly a great thing for Ohio State. So, you get guys of that caliber. And Tavian St. Clair was there, mixing in with those guys, helping to recruit those guys. That is a very good thing. And really, you had a bunch of Ohio State commitments in the house. And Guys like, as I mentioned, Tavian and Chris as well, Chris Henry. Carter Lowe, the big offensive tackle from Toledo, was there. Bo Jackson, the running back from Cleveland St. Joe, was in the house. Riley Pettijohn, all the way from Texas. Always great to see that happen, all the way from Texas. High State really likes Riley Pettijohn a lot. Eli Lee from up in Akron was there. And, of course, Jake Cook, no surprise there. He's a local kid, was at the game. BP Miller, the wide receiver, athlete, quarterback, could be a wide receiver at Ohio State. From Central Ohio, he was there. So good to have all those commitments in the house. And then you had a few other pretty darn good players in the house as well, such as Nasir McCoy from Buford, Georgia. And High State's done well at Buford. And, I could go on, but really a good overall group of players, considering that, it's Akron, to be honest.
You make a great point about Chris Henry Jr. Like, it couldn't be like a better, it'd be one thing if like Carnell Tate and Emeka Egbuka like had big days and Jeremiah Smith had a couple but for Jeremiah Smith to have a huge day in his first game ever, like if Chris Henry Jr. had any question, like, do they really play true freshman receivers a lot? Because Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't really play till the Rose Bowl. That's only because two guys were sitting out with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Chris Henry Jr. knows now, oh yeah, they will. And beyond that, Bill, I'm a Bengals fan. I love this story, knowing that the late Chris Henry Sr. and the tragedy that happened with him dying, and then his teammate Pac-Man Jones taking Chris Henry Jr. under his wing and becoming his guardian. The whole story is really cool.
Yeah, and I have a little story about that that's kind of interesting. A little over a year ago, Ohio State was having their Summer Fest. It was the last week of July. And they were having their Summer Fest, and I was there, and a number of other recruiting people were there. And Chris Henry walks out of the building, and Pac-Man was with him, if I remember correctly, a couple other people kind of in his group. So Chris walks out of the building, and I've gotten to know Chris pretty well, and I started talking to him after he had finished his visit to Ohio State, and I just asked him about how it went and everything. And I said something about, you're thinking, maybe you want to commit anytime soon. And in the background, the guys I just mentioned were saying, he looked at him and they were saying, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris. They kind of yell in the background. Chris gets a big smile on his face. And he says, well, I just committed. And all of the horde of other people were kind of closed in. Chris Henry just committed. And I'm not sure he was exactly planning to say that when he left the building, but with all the other people there saying, if you want to go ahead and tell him, go ahead, Chris. And he did. It was a really fun experience.
Beyond anything that happened today, what's something that our listeners right now need to know about recruiting? Where it could be the 2025 class, 26, something you really think our listeners need to know?
I don't know how I got this far in this podcast without mentioning this. I'm glad you said that. We got a big announcement coming tonight. Phillip Bell, he's a wide receiver from California, and he made 5 official visits, pretty much cut his list down to 2 schools, Ohio State and USC, and he's going to make his announcement on 247 Sports YouTube channel, whether he's going to be a Buckeye or stay close to home and be a USC Trojan. So at 10:30 Eastern time, Columbus time, he's going to make his announcement. He's doing it on a yacht party. And the family got a yacht reserved and everything from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock Pacific time tonight, which, of course, is 10 o'clock our time to 1 a.m. our time. So he's going to make his announcement at 7:30, and I like the Buckeyes' chances there, but we have to see. He's going to make that announcement tonight on the 247 Sports YouTube channel. So if you are an Ohio State fan, stay up till 10:30 because we got a big announcement, and we certainly all hope that it goes the Buckeyes' way.
Why are you not on the yacht?
I thought about this. I've done this for, I think, 37 years. And I'm not sure I've ever had somebody that I've been covering make their announcement at a yacht party. And there is a backstory to that too, and it's really kind of it is a sad story in that Philip Bell's mother, her birthday is August 25th, and his birthday, Philip's, is August 30th. Unfortunately and tragically, Philip Bell's mother passed away earlier this summer, but they had talked about having a yacht party and Philip announcing somewhere right around their two birthdays, between the 25th and the 30th. So Philip decided that he was going to honor his mom and go ahead and make the announcement on the yacht party, just like they had talked about doing, celebrating their birthdays. And he is going to do it tonight on August 31st. And it's just a horrible tragedy that what he's been through with his mom passing away. But at least he gets to honor his mom tonight by announcing his college choice.
That's really cool that he's able to do that. Really, really cool. Look at this Ohio State team, like Tegra Shabola getting his first start tonight. We knew that was happening. Donovan Jackson missed the game. Austin Seierveld, is it Seierveld?
Yeah,
Seierveld. So you got two Lakota guys getting their starts at guard. Two Lakota rivals. You had Lakota East, Lakota West getting their first starts as Buckeyes. What'd you make of that?
I didn't even, Dave, I didn't even think about that. Obviously I know that one is from Lakota West and one is from Lakota East, but I didn't really think about the two rivals starting at the two guards. And great, good for them. I was at first, I really was a little surprised. I saw the starting offensive line. I don't know if it surprised you at all, but I didn't necessarily expect Austin Seierveld to get that start. But good for him. I think I kind of tried to watch him during the game. I didn't focus just on him, but he missed on some plays, but he also had some nice plays too. So good for Austin and good for Tegra. Two guys that certainly I enjoyed covering while they were being recruited.
Thank you, Dean. I always appreciate your insights. We'll bug you occasionally to have you on What We Learned Live. I appreciate you joining us here on the season debut.
Well, always good to be here. And again, folks out there, if you're up till 10:30 Columbus time, we got a big announcement coming tonight. And we hope to see another outstanding talent in the Buckeye fold as a commitment before the end of tonight.
The Dean of Ohio State football recruiting is an outstanding talent. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Take care, Dave. Thank you.
Love the Dean. He is just an absolute treasure. He's a national treasure. He's an Ohio treasure. All right, let's get to some of your questions. We're going to hear from Pat Murphy and Steve Helwagen eventually, live from Ohio Stadium. Yeah, I agree with this. Mike Schaefer. Arvell Reese looked good and fast. Yes and yes. Arvell Reese looked good and he looked fast. Yes. I like Arvell Reese a lot. How about Gabe Powers, too? The backup linebackers. I mean, you got a third-year sophomore, Gabe Powers, pick 6. True sophomore, Arvell Reese. Those guys are the backup linebackers with Cody Simon out. Those guys are really, if Cody Simon's healthy, those are your 4th and 5th best linebackers. And we thought on defense that was going to be maybe the question mark was linebacker, right? You don't have your leader, your captain, your middle linebacker, and Cody Simon. Sonny Styles gets to start at Mike. CJ Hicks gets the start at will. CJ with his first of many sacks, in my opinion. And then Gabe Powers and Arvell Reese in there. Arvell Reese he's just a dude. He's underrated. I don't know why he wasn't he was he was a high 4-star. It wasn't like we're not talking about they got this low 3-star kid out of Glenville. He was a high 4-star, but I still feel like Arvell Reese is underrated. Maybe not for long. I don't think we think it's underrated. The day presser is over. Yeah, my boys have to stay for the players and the assistant coaches too. But we'll hear from them as soon as the entire presser is over. I was because what I did for years is obviously I would cover the game, go to the presser, then come back and do What We Learned story. Now we do the show right after the game, and I don't hear the post game presser. So I love hearing Steve and Patrick catch us up on the most interesting things that they gleaned from the postgame presser. And I love that we can start right after the game. We can do the show right after the game and still get all the stuff from the presser. Hollywood Hager, Sonny and CJ missed a lot of reads. Yeah, both of them getting their first ever start at linebacker. I know it's Akron. We got to they got to get better than that. Eddie saying that I've talked about Reese all summer. You guys have been talking about Reese all summer. We have. Thank you. Credit to Arvell Reese for making us not look stupid, though. He, I appreciate him not making me look dumb. He's Arvell Reese. I'll be shocked if we're not talking about him as like a dude, like by that I mean like a first team All Big Ten guy before he leaves here. Not this year. But I don't see anything like that I don't like about Arvell Reese. He's big. He's fast. He's physical. He plays with enthusiasm. And I think that's important. You know, as they say, like nothing great in life is done without enthusiasm. He's out there. I mean, Arvell Reese is a baller. I like him a lot. Are the linebackers still a question mark? I mean, listen, it's Akron, so I'm not going to draw any like, oh, the linebackers have arrived. I'm encouraged. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to say that like the linebackers have arrived. I'm encouraged though. Punt returning is back. Yes, Brandon Ennis is in the house tonight. Everybody just have a good time. I'm telling you, like this is exactly what I wanted to see. A guy that's going to get the ball. He's fearless, north-south, has good wiggle. Is he a 4.3 40 guy? No, but I don't care. He's fast enough. And to be a good punt returner, it's about toughness, making the first guy miss, having some wiggle, going north to south. And, yeah, you got to be fast. Brandon Ennis has all that. I love it. Scott on Facebook says the offensive line needs to be better. I agree. They were down a man, but they still have to be better. I agree. Yeah, Sonny needs to play better. Eddie saying, Sonny needs to like still live up to the hype. He does. The Sexton brothers. Dave had no. I'm not. That was nice of them to have me on. I was on the CBS pregame show. Thank you for those that have mentioned that. Yes, it was nice of them to have me on talking about BIA. We had a little Denzel Burke in the pregame show, and then it was Caleb Downs focused in on the actual pregame show. BIA. He had Denzel Burke out there. That was a hell of an interception, wasn't it? My God. First of all, I was like, oh, it bounced off. No, it didn't bounce off the receiver. Denzel just stole it from the receiver. Loved that. It's like a interception and fumble recovery all at once. Interception, obviously. I just love that. This secondary is unbelievable. Did you guys see? You guys did. You saw Jermaine Matthews in there late, 24. This dude would be a good starting corner right now. And he's the fourth corner on this team, including Jordan Hancock, if you consider Jordan Hancock. Because I consider Jordan Hancock a corner. I know it's slot corner / safety, but like if something happened on the outside, they could easily move Jordan Hancock back out there. They might not because they could just put Jermaine Matthews out there. My point is when you got Denzel Burke, who's a first-round lock in my opinion, Davison Igbinosun, love him. Jordan Hancock. Jermaine Matthews is the number 4 corner. Calvin Simpson-Hunt's number 5. Aaron Scott's number 6. That's good business. It's really good. So that was really cool to do that with CBS. It's really nice that 24/7 Sports has that partnership with CBS. And it's really nice that CBS has now the partnership with Big Ten. So now we get to do a bunch of stuff with them. So that's really cool. Yeah, so I think really the big thing tonight, my biggest takeaway is Will Howard. The stats look good, but like forget about the stats. Like, I mean, he had drops, didn't play in the fourth quarter or didn't play much of the fourth quarter. Like it's like 2 defensive touchdowns. Like it's like I'm not even talking about the stats. I thought he looked like what I wanted to see. I don't know what you guys wanted to see. He looked like what I wanted to see. He doesn't need to be elite. Although I don't know, he might be teetering on the brink of that this year. We'll see. But he doesn't need to be elite for this team to achieve their goals. He needs to be good. He needs to be clutch. He needs to make the big plays when they're there. But he doesn't need to win the Heisman for this team to achieve their goals. He needs to be good. And I was encouraged with what I saw to Will Howard today. Yeah, and even exactly, like Mike saying Howard's a leader. Exactly. You just see him on the way he, commands the sideline, the way everybody talks about him, former players. I've talked about this. Dane Sanzenbacher, a guy that I have high regard, is like, man, he had a chance to meet Will Howard for the first time at the Cardale Jones softball tournament and said, man, this guy is something special about him. He's a leader of men. Coming from a former captain who's 12 years older than Will? 14 years older, whatever it might be. High praise from a guy like Dane Sanzenbacher to say that. It's like, listen, I never talked to him before. I really, really am impressed with Will Howard. He was telling me this like a month ago. Love hearing that. So I thought the running backs looked good. Travion's out there looking fast. Quinshawn, what do they say about the great running backs? What do? Always fall forward. Quinshawn looks like, it's going to be a 1-yard loss, 2-yard gain. Doesn't seem like much. Those are 3 yards, though. Instead of a 1-yard loss or maybe no gain, he's getting 2 yards. Okay? Or if it looks like it's going to be 3 yards, he's getting 6 yards. Again, that's going to add up. And Quinshawn, the stats, you're going to be like, the stats don't look that great. I agree. I like what I saw to Quinshawn because the great running backs always fall forward. I like James Peoples. I like Travion Henderson. Good seeing Sam Williams-Dixon in there very late, getting a little run in his Buckeye debut. James Peoples, tell you what, he reminds me, I keep using this example. He's like a Boom Herron with a higher ceiling. And I love Boom Herron. So that's not a knock on Boom Herron by any means. Boom Herron, great running back here, played in the NFL for multiple years. You don't play in the NFL for multiple years unless you're really good at this sport, obviously. I'm saying James Peoples is a higher ceiling than that. I really like James Peoples. He reminds me a lot of Boom Herron, but the potential to be better. So really cool seeing that. There's some people saying J.K. Dobbins. I don't know if they're both from Texas. I think J.K. had a little bit more maybe burst than James. James might be a little more physical. I don't know. I could be wrong there. Maybe you're right, Eddie. I know. I liked it. Mike on Facebook, Gabe Powers, pick 6. That's cool. Seeing a local kid from Marysville. Great young man, too. Wearing that 36. Man, about time we have a 36 wearing linebacker for the Buckeyes, or a linebacker wearing 36 for the Buckeyes again, making plays, man. We had Brian Roll, a few years ago, but that looked like that was going to be the thing for a while. After he did Marcus Merrick and Chris Spielman. Before that, I believe, before my time, did Cousineau wear 36? I believe he did. Before my time, but certainly Marcus Merrick and Chris Spielman. You're thinking, 36. That's going to be what every great linebacker at Ohio State wears. Then we had Brian Roll wore 36, and now maybe Gabe Powers eventually will be the next one that he did. But yeah, you guys are backing me up there. Yeah. Tom Cousineau wore the 36. That was the number for a while. Marcus Merrick, I believe, still leads this program in all-time tackles. Chris Spielman, my gosh. Love Chris Spielman. Yeah, look, you guys are awesome. Did Cousineau wear 36? Yes. You guys are fantastic. Yeah, baby. Buckeye 80 saying J.K. Dobbins rushed for 2,000 yards. That's right. You know how many Ohio State running backs have rushed for 2,000 yards in a season? J.K. Dobbins. That's the list. That's the whole list. J.K. Dobbins. By the way, how cool was it to see Archie again get honored today? And he's like, I can't believe they asked me to do the dot the I. It's like, really? I can't believe you're just now doing it. Exudes class. Only 2-time Heisman winner and the classiest man alive. People say the most interesting man alive about people. Archie Griffin's the classiest man alive. Mike on Facebook. He says, Dave, I thought the linebacker play overall was good. I think is what you're saying there. Yeah, I think that is what you're saying. I do. I think the linebacker play overall was good without the fifth-year senior captain, Cody Simon, in there. Again, Akron's offense is not good. Maybe what they're saying about their front seven is true, that Akron does have a good front seven. Okay, perhaps. Their offense is not good. So I didn't like the fact that early on they could move the ball a little bit, but then Ohio State Jack Sawyer about killed their quarterback. I'm surprised. There was like 3 different times I was surprised their quarterback came back in the game. Akron starting a quarterback. I'm like, they're putting Finley back in the game again? Like, isn't he? I mean, he's really like that. I thought he might be going to the hospital, not be like back in the game at this point. But C+ linebacker play from John. Okay, Mike is. Sorry, should have been a question mark. What are my thoughts on the linebacker play? It's tough to say. I'd have to like rewatch the game. I thought live, I did see Sonny and CJ not being as sound in the run game as I would like. CJ is an absolute beast blitzing. He's the best blitzer on this team. Sonny flashed. When Sonny, Sonny's got a different gear, and just when he can close on you, he can just lay the wood. But I thought they could be a little or a lot better in the run game. I'm still bullish on both those guys, though. The thing is, like, when Cody Simon's in there, then you're going to have like Sonny will be the next starter, or the starter next time. You're going to have CJ in there. Those guys will rotate. I think that'll help. But I thought the backup linebackers looked really, really good. I thought Arvell Reese played good. I thought Gabe Powers played good. Now they're in there against Akron's backup offense, and Akron's first team offense isn't that good. But let's see what's happening. Okay, let's see what Steve. Oh, Will Howard's still talking. Okay, Will Howard is holding court. There you go. So the press conference still going on. That's fine. Fresno State losing 7-0 to some team from Ann Arbor. It's all right. Still early. Fresno State. I think they had like I think they like fumbled the kickoff, the opening kickoff. Fresno State did, which is really cool of them to do that. Anyway, that bill will come due November 30th. Regardless, we'll move on. Yeah, that's the thing. Doug Shepard on YouTube saying CJ Hicks took a lot of bad angles. Yeah, he's still very raw, even though he is a junior. This is why, just as a blitzer, that's like his best thing. He's a heat-seeking missile. He really is. He's just a heat-seeking missile. You got to think like, the good thing is you have Arvell Reese and Gabe Powers are going to if those guys are not getting it done, and I think they will. Again, and Cody Simon didn't even play. Let's say you're concerned about the starting linebackers today. Arvell Reese and Gabe Powers are going to continue to push those guys. If those guys aren't getting the job done, I'm sure James Laurinaitis does not have any problem being like, okay, Arvell, Gabe, you guys are in. James Laurinaitis is not going to mess around. Joey on Facebook, thoughts on Seth McLaughlin, the new center. I thought he was solid. What was the big complaint? Snaps? I didn't see any bad snaps. Again, I need to go back and watch the game. Maybe there were some bad. I didn't see any bad snaps. I like Seth. And Seth, and another thing, everybody talks about Seth McLaughlin. He's a leader. I mean, you got a center as a fifth-year senior, 25 starts under his belt. Everybody talks about what a great leader he is. Quarterback, bunch of starts under his belt, 28 starts, Will Howard, fifth-year senior, leader. Those guys aren't even captains. And it's only because they're transfers. I don't think they want to have transfers be captains unless there's nobody else that deserves it. But when you got guys like Emeka Egbuka and Travion Henderson and Jack Sawyer and Cody Simon, you're not lacking leaders. Okay, you're not going to give captainship to somebody who just got there. When guys that like Denzel Burke's not a captain, all right? JT Tuimoloau's not a captain. There's a number of guys like Donovan Jackson, guys that have been here for 4 years, 5 years that easily could be a captain. Lathan Ransom. I could go on and on. Jordan Hancock. So what are my thoughts on the new center? I love Seth McLaughlin. I love it. How do they keep Arvell Reese off the field? I don't know, Eddie. He looked really good. John Gorby. Love the play from Lathan Ransom today. I agree. That was a big loss late in the season last year. I know all of you know that. When he got hurt early November, that Liz Frank injury, that broken foot, that was a big loss. He's a guy you definitely needed against Michigan last year, for example. Lathan brings the wood. He's your prototypical strong safety. Caleb Downs, your prototypical free safety. Talked a lot about corners. I mean, Ohio State has the best safety tandem in the nation. If there's a better one, let me know, than Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs. Frank's fired up on the X machine. Ohio State football's back. That's right. We get caught up in all the little stuff. I almost cussed. Sorry, Mom. I just shouldn't say. I don't need to apologize. I didn't cuss. I almost had to apologize. 52-6. Got to see Buckeye football today. Let's enjoy it. And soon, we're going to see Patrick Murphy, Steve Helwagen. And by soon, I mean right now. Patrick Murphy, welcome. I just said like 2 seconds ago, soon we're going to see Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen. It was like, got the question in the mouth. Boom. I see your beautiful face at Ohio Stadium. How you doing?
I am good, Dave. Buckeyes win. Wasn't the most convincing win for a decent portion, but they won. And, I think when you look at the final score, look at the final stats, you got there eventually, right?
Yeah, what was your main takeaway from this game? If there's one or two, it doesn't be one thing. You're saying, okay, these are my main takeaways from the game. What would those be?
One, Jeremiah Smith, good at football. I'm sure you've touched on him already. We got to talk to him, though I was talking to Denzel Burke, so you'll have to ask Steve about what Jeremiah said. So that would be the first one. I think the second is this was a first game. And look, you'd love to come out and be clicking on all cylinders from the opening snap, right? And that's the way that you ideally draw it up. Ryan Day talked about the guys in the middle, talking about Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins, basically the interior of the offensive line are all first-time guys or new guys to the program. And he thought it took a while for them to kind of get a rhythm going just because they hadn't been in a real game together. So I think that makes some sense, but I think you need to see improvement next week for sure from that group. And hopefully you get Donovan Jackson back, which it sounds like is the plan. I think that. And look, the defense is still really good. I mean, you give up 2 drives, sort of, but you also have 3 turnovers, which is what they talked about all offseason. I mean, going back to last season, that they wanted more of. 2 of those end in touchdowns. So I think all in all, you take it, but also realize there's room for improvement if you want to get where you plan to be at the end of the season.
The Columbus Crew are obviously in the midst of a dynasty. They're hosting New York City tonight. New York City got on the board early with a goal, and then Diego Rossi in the 17th minute ties it up. 1-1 Crew. So I know you want to get over there eventually, but I'm gonna keep you just for a little bit.
No, we're good. We're good.
Crew 1-1 right now. First half. They'll obviously will win this game. That's how they do. Will Howard. He looks like what, if you're an Ohio State fan, I think he looks like what you want him to look like. What do you think?
I agree. There were some moments where I thought he could have made better decisions, specifically that sort of throwback to Travion Henderson right before the first half ended that resulted in a fumble. Unfortunately, Travion got on top of it. He admitted that we just talked to him. He said there were times when he probably should have run where there was space and he didn't. So it'll be interesting to see as that evolves a little bit more. He also talked about the fact, and I don't think we talk about this, he just went through a whole training camp where you don't get hit, right? And so you're out there for the first time, and it's different. You know, you're actually live. And, again, you want him to come out and be perfect, but it is that first time playing in this stadium, which he also talked about and how great that was, playing with these guys. So you saw some good things. His chemistry with Jeremiah Smith, I think, looks excellent, which is good news for the Buckeyes. He seems to be in a good place with the rest of the receivers. Obviously, finding Carnell Tate for that touchdown was big. Still can clean some things up, but his veteran experience and his legs, I think, are going to be what sets him apart from what Kyle McCord was a year ago and kind of elevate this Buckeye offense.
What did Coach Day or anybody say about, I know they're pretty tight-lipped about injuries. Is Donovan Jackson, I'm hearing that's just an illness that's still going around. Is that what you're hearing? It's more of an illness with Donovan Jackson, or is it something else? What are you hearing about Cody Simon? What did the coaches say about that, if anything?
Yes. So Coach Day said the plan was for Donovan Jackson to practice all of next week. It sounds like he just hasn't had a full week of practice, if I'm reading between the lines. So get him back. And then Cody, he said they expect him back next week. If not, there would have been, I don't remember if he said there would have been a setback, but for Donovan or for Cody, but both of them sound like minor. They were both in uniform today. I don't know if people saw that on the broadcast. Donovan Jackson even warmed up with the offensive linemen. So it must be something like you were saying, an illness or a minor injury where it just wasn't worth risking him. I think they need him, though, because, look, Austin Sareveld, I was impressed with him during camp, but they need a guy like that out there, especially on the interior. Donovan Jackson's one of the best guards in the country, and they missed him today. Cody Simon, I thought they did a better job of, replacing, I guess, for lack of a better term, with what the linebackers were able to do, but they're surrounded by a really great defense, so that helps, as opposed to the offensive line, where I still think there's questions. Maybe I have more questions about the offensive line now than I did, as you and I've talked about, starting to feel more comfortable about it. Maybe we shouldn't have felt as comfortable. I want to see it when it's the full first team group, and that means getting Donnie back in there, but it was not convincing, especially in that first half.
It certainly wasn't, and that's the thing. It's like, and there's been a lot of talk, well, Akron's got a good front seven. I was like, okay, but it's Akron. Yep. We're really going to say, well, I mean, Donovan Jackson wasn't out there and Akron's got a good front seven. I don't know if I can get down with that. Not when there's all this national championship or bust talk. If you're talking about we want to be 10-2, fine. But come on, Akron's got a good front seven.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there is something to that potentially, but I still think you should have dominated that group, even with a backup at guard. It's like you said, the standard is very high this year. It's not about just winning the Big Ten. It's about winning a national championship. And there are components of that certainly showed today, specifically on the defensive side. Some of the play, as I mentioned, Jeremiah Smith and Will Howard. But yeah, that offensive line, you can't have that be a thing that holds the rest of this team back. We saw improvements last year throughout the season. So I will say, I think that there is opportunity to, grow, but not the performance you wanted to have, given how we heard about and what we saw from this offensive line in camp. Yes, a lot of new pieces in there, basically Seth McLaughlin, Tegra Shabola, and then obviously Austin Sareveld, but just, you wanted it to be a more dominant performance against, as you mentioned, an Akron team that I think most people think will finish near the bottom of the MAC.
It is interesting. You had two guards make their first ever start for the Buckeyes today, both from rival high schools in Westchester, Ohio. You had Tegra from Lakota West, and you had Austin Cyberveld from Lakota East. So before we bring Steve Helwagen in here, we have Steve we're going to bring in. Anything else from the press conference? Because I don't get to see the press conference until after I'm done with the show, when I go back and watch it. Anything else from either Coach Day or anybody you talked to at the press conference that really stands out that people need to know about Patrick?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, Coach Day talking about not calling plays. And he gave some credit to Chip Kelly for adjusting to things during the game. But he was asked about not calling plays. He said, yeah, I got a little jittery on the sideline. Just, joking. But he said, it's different. And look, because of that and because of the new rules where you can have the iPads or whatever tablet they're using, he was able to watch some of these plays back, which for a press conference meant he could answer questions better. Like, he'd already seen back some plays that he wouldn't have in previous years, which I think was really a benefit to us and to, people that want to know what he saw from the game. So I thought that side of it was interesting. The first time in who knows how long Ryan Day hasn't called plays in the game. And then as I mentioned off the top, I talked with Denzel Burke. He's so confident about this defense. Talked about Lathan Ransom and how cool it was to see him back out there after the injury last year. And then obviously he gets the big play, the fumble recovery for the touchdown. talked about just turnovers in general and how this was a goal and they hope to continue that throughout the season. 11 turnovers all of last season, 3 today. So you're well on pace to breaking that number, and you take 2 of them to the house. Not too bad from this defense.
Fresno State with an interception against Michigan. Michigan leads 7-0, but Fresno State picks off a ball near the end zone, returns it to the 35. So Fresno State down 7-0 in Ann Arbor. 3 minutes left in the first quarter.
Dave,
Patrick Murphy, great stuff.
Did I see this right? Is Michigan starting a former walk-on at quarterback?
They are.
Okay. I saw something on Twitter.
If people are wondering if it's Kevin Warren's son, it's not. They do have the same last name, but I'm pretty sure they're not related.
Yeah. I saw that on Twitter, and I didn't believe it. I thought it was like a fake account that got retweeted. So interesting up north and how that will go. I'll have to get that put on when I get up to the press box.
It's going to be a fun year overall, I think, for our friends up north.
Yeah.
On and off the field. I think they're going to have a great time. Patrick, you have a great time finishing working and have a great time watching the dynasty that is the Columbus Crew. Appreciate it, bud.
All right. Talk to you later, Dave.
Let's bring in my other good friend that I work with, Steve Helwagen. Welcome to the show, Steve. Are you on mute? I can't hear you.
I was on mute. Yes. Sorry.
There you go. Hey, what stood out most from the press conference? I'm going to ask you your general thoughts on the game too, but what do we need to know from the press conference?
Well, they asked Coach Day about Jeremiah Smith's first series, where he dropped the screen pass that was going to go for about 15 or 20 yards, and then had the false start. And Coach Day was very interesting. He said nobody really talked to him about it, and everybody knew that he would play his way through it. And he says there's going to be a lot of that. You got to take some of the bad with the good with a freshman, but he said it's obvious how talented he is, and we saw some of it today. I asked Will Howard about the first touchdown pass where it appears that Jeremiah Smith has to make an adjustment and gives the back shoulder, comes back, to catch the ball. And he says when he is locked in single coverage, you just throw it up to him and he's going to go make the play and get it. And so for the quarterbacks, that is a tremendous luxury to have a guy who's got that type of ability. And I talked to Pat Murphy about this during the course of the game. I thought they targeted Smith a lot. I think something like 9 targets and 6 catches for like 94 yards, something like that. And I thought that this was by design because they have got to establish somebody else. Because everybody knows how great Emeka Egbuka is. You have got to establish somebody else. And it was so big for Carnell Tate to catch that touchdown pass as well. And now you've got 3 legitimate threats. I think they're at wide receiver that people have to account for. And that's going to make life a lot simpler, I think, for all 3 of them. You're going to take your pick whenever, the team you're playing. They can't double all 3 of those guys. So you can pick and choose your matchups. I thought, on the second touchdown to Smith, I thought they did a great job bringing the man in motion and basically freeing up that entire right side of the field. And Smith ran a great route, got inside leverage on his defender, and caught the pass, for the touchdown. So he did a little bit of everything today, and that was good. After the shaky start, he really came through in a big way, Dave.
If you're an Ohio State fan, how do you view this game? Is it like, okay, I know they started slow, they finished strong. Overall, though, the way Will Howard looked, I know the offensive line was shaky. Overall, as you walk away from this game, you're an Ohio State fan, you feeling good?
Yeah, I think you have to. I know Akron, 2-10 the last 2 years. You were favored by 50 points to beat them, and it didn't quite work out that way on the scoreboard. 46 is less than 50, I guess, but it did spiral out of control, went from 17 to 52 in the second half. So that's pretty amazing when you think about it. 35 points, 35-3 in the second half. So, and a couple defensive touchdowns mixed in there. I've been harping on the turnovers forever, Dave. If they can get 2 or 3 like this, a game, they're going to win a lot of games. And, they're going to be hard to beat if they get 2 or 3 turnovers in a game. So, and two touchdowns on defense as well, which is amazing. So, to me, I think it was a great step forward on all accounts. I think the run game They've got no reason to not work on the run game this week. I think, as Coach Day kind of said, you had 2 new starters at guard with Shabola and Sierveld. McLaughlin is first time playing here. Judkins is first time playing here. Chalk it up to what it was. I want to see it be a little bit better next week, a little more crisp, and just felt like they just at times were their own worst enemy. It felt like on offense in that first half, but then they kind of got everything rolling after that.
Any parting thoughts before you get back to work, my friend?
Just have to hit somebody on a quick text here or something that's pressing. Sorry.
Oh, take your time.
You know how life is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unfortunate that a lot of young guys who you thought you were going to get to see today, you really didn't. You got to see the second team, I think, on both sides, but, didn't go much deeper than that because the opportunities just weren't there. You just didn't have a big enough lead or a comfortable enough lead to put the other people in. So, and I have no, whatever. We've seen games like this before in the past. Again, I'm not going to get too wrapped around the axle about a 46-point win. Remains to be seen whether Akron's 2-10 bad or just 5-7 bad this year. I don't know. That's what I'd put their range at. Them getting their quarterback banged up in this game doesn't bode well for them going forward. I don't think, but they had some guys that could do a couple things here and there. There were a couple things that astounded me at times. The fourth down play where he threw underneath the sticks to a covered Emeka Buka. That was a bit of a puzzler. As Dave Holmes, who was sitting next to me, said, I've always found it best when you can try and set up 5th and short. So the levity that we can have when it's 52-6. But just a couple things here and there. They didn't turn it over on offense. They had good ball security, no interceptions, which was good. Howard, missed his first 4 passes, and you're thinking, who is this klutz? What is this guy? And yet, that you had Smith dropped one, and then I think there was another one down the middle that went off a receiver's hands in coverage. Tough catch, but would have been nice to catch it. But eventually he settled into a nice rhythm and hit a couple deep balls. Everyone's like, was he going to throw the deep ball? Well, at least against Akron, he could throw the deep ball. So, it is what it is. You're playing Akron. There's going to be much tougher games, obviously, going forward. Western Michigan gave Wisconsin a great matchup last night for 3 quarters. And they're here next week, and they're going to come in here believing they can make plays against Ohio State. And it's up to Ohio State, to come out and play a better first half next week. I think that's what you want to see out of this team going forward.
Great stuff, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
All right, Dave. Everybody have a safe Labor Day weekend, and we're going to continue to post stuff on Bucknuts. Going to post the coaches' press conferences and everything, and press conference Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, all that stuff's coming up. So don't touch that dial.
Keep it locked to Bucknuts. Great stuff, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
All right, Dave. Take care.
Another great thing to come out of the game. No injuries. That would have been like the worst thing against Akron in only a 46-point win. Seriously, this was perfect, really. I mean, you get kind of tested early. And as Steve said, Western Michigan's no joke. They're picked 4th in the MAC, whereas Akron was picked 10th by Phil Steele. So, and Western Michigan gave Wisconsin a pretty good game last night in Madison. So, I think that overall this was good, mostly because Ohio State escaped with no injuries. That's the main thing. It's I'm not going to sugarcoat the offensive line didn't look as good as I wanted it to. Maybe the linebackers didn't look as good as I wanted them to. Team started too slow. All of that's true. Some of those plays that we were just talking about. It's 3rd and 5, and you're throwing a 2-yard out to Emeka Buka. What happened to Chip Kelly, the mad scientist? So there are things that can improve, but overall I'm encouraged. Will Howard looks the part. overall, I think this defense is going to be the best defense in college football this year. And no injuries. You get out of this game with no injuries. Just keep stacking that. That's huge. Because this team has enough depth where, they can withstand some. Everybody's going to have injuries. And this team has enough depth at every position that, relatively speaking, they can withstand injuries somewhat. No one can be ravaged by injuries and achieve their goals in football. Some teams can just have great luck with injuries. Let's hope it's the latter. If it's somewhere in between, this team is still built to win it all. So that's going to be a huge thing this season. How healthy can they stay? And, hey, they got through the first of 12 hurdles as far as the regular season is concerned. So 11 to go. So overall, I'm encouraged, my friends. I'm encouraged. As Steve said, keep it locked to Bucknuts. Appreciate you guys joining me for the show. Thank you to all of my guests, Heath Schneider, Bill Kurelic, Patrick Murphy, Steve Helwagen. Thanks to all of them. Thanks to all of you. Ohio State, 1-0 on the season. Best part about being 1-0, the chance to go 2-0. Ohio State knocks off Akron 52-6. I am Dave Biddle. Thank you very much for joining me for What We Learned Live. We'll be with you after every game this season. Thank you very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your evening and a great Labor Day weekend.